Hawkeye with me, Dave O'Hara. Thanks for tuning in. Got a great show lined up for you this week, and I'll get to that in just a moment. But if you're just tuning in for the first time, if you're in Sioux City, Des Moines, Ottumwa, or throughout Iowa, outside the eastern Iowa area on the Fox 28 viewing area, welcome aboard for the first time. Or if you've seen this show at DaveO'HaraSports.com, thanks for tuning in again, or the first time, welcome aboard. And to those of you in the Cedar Rapids, eastern Iowa area, thanks for tuning in again. As I mentioned, this week's show, we're going to be talking all things Iowa Hawkeye sports as we do every week. And this week's no exception. David Eickholt will join me here in just a moment to close out the show, talking about Iowa Hawkeyes, the inside information. That's why he's the Hawkeye Insider. Also, James Vendenberg, former Iowa Hawkeye quarterback, will join us in the next segment. And right now, I want to introduce a feature that we're going to have every week here called #WinTheDay. And it's with the www.fightwithflashfoundation.org. And the parents of Austin Flash Schroeder are joining me, as they will each week, or at least talking about other stories besides their own and Austin's story. Craig and Stacy Schroeder. Craig, thanks for joining us. And how's everything going with you this week?
It's going great.
I'll tell you what, folks, for me, it is even more of a pride point because Craig and I grew up in Northeast Iowa together, went to Postville schools, and I'm closer in age to Craig's older brothers, but we're within a handful of years of each other. And then Stacy, a Dubuque, Iowa native, so we all come by it naturally. But Craig and Stacy's story is a very traumatic, sad story that they have really come through on the other side and not just survived as parents, but thrived as parents and in the philanthropy industry as far as raising over $500,000 for the University of Iowa Stead Children's Family Hospital in honor of their son, Austin Flash Schroeder. Why Flash? Because he was a fast runner. And everything ties in life. We want to have athletics to life, life to athletics. So Craig, you know, it's tough for me to sit here and talk with you to say, summarize your son's life in a short period of time. But that's why each week we're going to highlight Austin's story and other folks, parents, kids that you come in contact with, that you counsel through. And three things that have stuck with me throughout our conversations, you, me, and Stacy, on the air, off the air, are that you're here with Fight with Flash Foundation, to raise awareness, raise funding, and to offer support. And that last one, support, just still blows me away, the strength that you and Stacy show. So please talk about Austin's story for us, if you will, in a couple of minutes, and then we'll get to Stacy to update us on what's happening with Fight with Flash Foundation right now.
No, I appreciate it, the opportunity to be able to be on the show and be able to share Austin's story. And really, for us, being able to watch our son go through really such a difficult time, he was sent home on hospice, and we had 6 wonderful weeks with him. And during that time period, he was invited back to the Children's Stead Family Hospital that was being constructed, and asked to sign a beam. And on that day, we were waiting to go in, and there was a family that was next to us with a very young child that was going through a cancer diagnosis. And they unfortunately got some bad news, which we did a lot during a year and 2 weeks. Austin said to us, you know, Mom, Dad, this just isn't fair. And we said, you're right, it's not fair. And he looked and said, I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about
Wow.
These other kids and these other families that have to go through this. And he said that his goal was to still beat cancer, to come back to this hospital, to talk to these kids and these families about win the day, about finding the positives, and about never, ever giving up. And that was his wish. And even in the darkest hour for him, he was still more concerned about everybody else and all these other kids. And so we took that wish, and we took we took that and created the money that was given to us at his funeral service and everything else, and we started the Fight with Flash Foundation. And like you said, it's there to share his Win the Day motto, his story. It's there to raise funds, raise awareness, and it's also there to help families that are recently diagnosed with a cancer, that they have to go through what we had to, and also for any families that had lost a child, regardless if it's cancer related or not, because at the end of the day, losing a child is one of the most unspeakable things that anybody has to go through. And we want to support them and share Win the Day with them and understand that there is reasons to get up and to keep driving forward and to continue to make positives in everybody else's life.
That is such an important factor because my brother died in a car accident when I was a 9-year-old, and I saw what it did to my family and my parents. And you and I and Stacy have had lunches with other TV executives and advertising folks, and it's amazing to me how everybody's life is touched by something like this, either in your community, your nephew, your niece, your son, your daughter, cousin, whomever, wherever. It touches everyone. And so that's why I think it's so important that you two can join us each week, or at least have folks like yourself join us each week to highlight these stories. I know a lot of people recently in the Iowa City area where you two are located, and we're located for the show. But the Tate Schaefer Foundation is also, they just had a Tater Tough and had a sad passing. And it's Fran McCaffrey and Patrick McCaffrey, Margaret, that family went through it the same time with us. And we've heard Dick Vitale on ESPN, the famous broadcaster, talking about that. And we're going to get into it in weeks upcoming, where Craig and Stacy each year have been to the Jimmy V Fight for Cancer Foundation from ESPN and Dick Vitale's house and the foundation. The great work you're doing, not just locally, but throughout the country. And Stacy, for me, and thank you again, Craig, for sharing that. And each week we're going to update more and more. But the thing that fascinates me still, Stacy, is it's been 6 years since Austin's passing. So what I'd like you to do this week for us, as you will each week, hopefully, is let us know what's going on with Fight with Flash Foundation. There's always something, just like Austin Flash Schroeder, always moving, always shaking, always getting after it. You folks are doing the same thing, and it makes you smile, because these stories aren't to bring people down. You see the smiles on their faces. I mean, it's a sad, tragic event, but you two have done just wonderful work, and you just had some recent events that happened and raised big funds, and now you've got one big event coming up. Well, there's a football game upcoming, but there's something else happening too, so I'm going to step out of the way and let you fill us in, please.
Oh, thanks so much, Dave, because it's so exciting to talk about. We hold, with our Fight with Flash Foundation, we hold 2 main events for our fundraisers each year. And in June, we hold a baseball fundraiser called the Crosstown Classic, where we bring 6 of the community high schools together. They play to raise money, and it's just so awesome that everybody comes together that day. We also got to bring the youth baseball boys to play also this year. And so we raised $15,000, which was amazing.
That is.
But we had such a beautiful day, and just having all those families and the baseball going on, it was such a great day. So then our next big event, which is our golf tournament. So we have a Fight with Flash golf classic that we will hold September 10th. So we are very excited about that and raising more money for the AYA program at the hospital. So
I love it. And Stacy, Craig, I've got to have you pull your left sleeve up there and show us the tattoo there of Austin Flash. His number was 22. There's the lightning bolt. So do whatever you can, viewers, please, to help out fightwithflashfoundation.org or #WinTheDay. They have so many neat things at your website where they can order apparel that will go to funding straight away. You have a bourbon that was out. Anything that you see that you're able to help out and either purchase or just make donations, again, www.fightwithflashfoundation.org, #WinTheDay. Throw a little lightning bolt in there too, like Craig did. But Craig, Stacy, always leave us smiling. Such a tough topic, but you two have just pushed through this miraculously, and I can't begin to say thank you enough for joining us each week as you're going to, or at least highlighting stories. But also just thank you for everything you've done for the community and with Fight with Flash Foundation.
Oh,
Thank you so much, Dave. It's our pleasure.
And thank you. It's truly my pleasure as well. So again, www.fightwithflashfoundation.org, #WinTheDay. I'm Dave O'Hara with Hawkeye. We'll be back with more with former quarterback James Vendenberg of the Iowa Hawkeyes, and then David Eickholt, HawkeyeInsider.com. Back with more Hawkeye in just a few moments.
Hi, I'm Joel from Tice Chevrolet. We've lived through some very interesting times the last few months. Ensuring everyone's safety is more important than ever. That is why we're participating in the Chevy Clean program. At your request, we will pick up your vehicle, service it, and return it after we've cleaned it using the current CDC guidelines. This is just another way to work towards exceeding your expectations. So give us a call and let us show you what it means to be part of the Tice Automotive family.
His hands were hard and stained with dirt from breaking ground. He's the heartbeat of the heartland, and everybody knows if a ship ever comes in, it's coming in and rolls. He'll make it roll from sun up to sundown. He knows how to make Mother Nature come around with a saddle full of faith in fields full of love. He'll give it hell, and with a little help from above, he'll make it grow. They'll make it grow.
Hi, I'm Joel from Tice Automotive Family. We're living through some of the most interesting and challenging times many of us have ever seen. Knowing who you can rely on is more important than ever. Many of us turn to our families to get us through, and the same holds true here. From our fair, upfront pricing to exceptional service after the sale, we truly want to exceed your expectations. So give us a call or stop by and let us show you what it means to be part of the Tice Automotive family.
Welcome back to Hawkeye with me, Dave O'Hara, and as you can see on the screen, my buddy James Vendenberg joining me. Again, those of you familiar with the show, James joined me during the football season last year, the whole season. James back now after a summer break, and for those of you new to the show, again, James Vendenberg, former Iowa Hawkeye quarterback, which I know you know. All of James's information there at the bottom of the screen for those of you in Eastern Iowa who have viewed the show on TV before or online. You know that James joined me to talk about the Hawkeyes, the insights into the Iowa program, not just from a media perspective or a fan perspective, but from a former player perspective. So James is with RBC Wealth Management in Cedar Rapids. That's part of the Corridor Investment Group, corridorinvestmentgroup.com. You got the quarterback in James Vendenberg, the former quarterback, and you got the former Hawkeye wide receiver in Bill Happel Jr. So James, as always, thanks for joining me. And secondly, how's everything going with you this summer? How's everything been?
Busy, Dave. Little kids and birthdays and everything else. But thanks for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure as always. And James, we got to start off. I know we're always smiling and laughing, but you know, on a serious note initially, and then we'll get back into analysis and talking about the Hawkeyes and your career and what's upcoming for the Hawkeyes this football season. But for those of you that don't know, this past weekend, a major part of this show, Bill Merschman, the patriarch of the Merschman Seeds Company and Joe Merschman's dad, as you've seen Joe on the show before. And again, a major part of this show, Bill passed away at 93 years old this past weekend. And I had the pleasure of, besides knowing and working with and talking with Joe Merschman regularly, as James Vendenberg does as well, I had the pleasure of meeting Bill Merschman over time, and what great experiences I had in conversations with Bill. And James, I'd like you to talk just for a few minutes about your experience with Merschman Seeds or with Bill Merschman.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Dave. I had the pleasure to meet Bill a handful of times too. And one, a couple things stick out to me. I mean, one, just the work ethic of that guy and taking what he started with, I think, oats 50, 60, 70 years ago. I'm not even exactly sure. But then turning it into what it is now. And with somebody like that, you just think of, I mean, kind of what they leave behind and the ripple effect. And a guy like that, I mean, in West Point, in Southeast Iowa, in agriculture, and then to think he's got 5 kids that, I mean, give back so much and have helped so much. I mean, the ripple of Bill Merschman will continue for a long, long time. And I don't know if there's any better, I mean, feeling, I guess, knowing him. I mean, knowing that I got to know him and knowing that that's what he's leaving behind. He might be gone, but there's a lot of Bill Merschman out there, which we're all lucky for.
Oh, well stated, James. Couldn't say that any better. And as Joe Merschman said on this show a couple of months ago, I can give you the exact year. We're going into year 67 with Merschman Seed because Joe said, my dad started the company, and a year later, he started me. So there you have it. So that gives you the perfect information from the words of Joe Merschman. But again, our thoughts and prayers and sympathies and condolences to the Merschman family, personally and professionally. And Merschman Seeds in great shape, as James said, moving forward as Bill would have it. So that being said, James, we talk about now from talking about Merschman Seeds and getting back to Iowa Hawkeye football. Interesting that Marvin McNutt, his birthday was over the 4th of July, and University of Iowa on social media, Iowa football will put out a happy birthday to former players, and they'll show a little clip on social media. Well, I'm watching this last week, and again, belated happy birthday to Marvin McNutt, who I wished a happy birthday on social media when it happened, and Marvin responded. He's been on this show, as you all know, before. If you haven't seen it, go back to our archives, DaveO'HaraSports.com, and Marvin joined us a couple of months ago. But James, in that clip, it was the Purdue game, and I know you remember, where Marvin made a well, you didn't see it, but maybe you don't remember either, but you didn't get a chance to see it. But the intriguing thing was, in Marvin's case, he makes a juggling catch and takes it to the house, touchdown. I see that, I'm like, oh, I remember that. That's a great play. But I look upon further review, and I just did air quotes, I can't stand that, but I did it. Upon further review, James, you got hammered on that play, and I saw that at the corner of my eye, and so every replay I watched was like, okay, great play, Marvin. James, I think that's one of the plays you've told me in the past where you said that one actually hurt. I know you didn't get to see it when it happened. You probably saw it on film, and like you said, you don't remember. But tell us that story and take us through what it's like to get just smoked on a play like that.
I disappeared out of frame on that one pretty quick. Yeah, in my 4.5, 5 years, that was the worst hit I took. And it's one of those classic deals where you kind of know it's coming. The line's going to pinch down. They're going to turn the D end loose. I was going to throw it to Marv, which meant I had to turn to my left, and that D end is just unblocked. And everybody's doing their job, but it's just you got to get the ball out quick. And so, yeah, I let the ball go and never saw anything. I just remember laying there, and Purdue in general didn't have a loaded stadium, but I remember hearing the which I could tell meant Marvin caught it and was still running because it was going quieter and quieter. And yeah, I thought I might have lost some teeth on that play, but I didn't. I was fine. It was one of the few times, I must have looked dazed though. It was one of the few times I remember Coach Ferentz asking me are you okay? But yeah, Marvin bailed me out because it wasn't a good throw.
No, but I'll tell you this, I remember you telling me that off the air a couple of months ago. You were talking to Joe Mershman and me, and you said, Dave, I got hit one time so hard at Purdue that my teeth hurt. And after seeing that play, remembering that play, I get it now, James. And we'll go into some more memories of your playing days, but I do want to say this to you. Football's coming up. Hawkeye's getting ready. I wanted to have you tell that story about getting hit to get the fans excited. It's time for action to start. And James, within a couple weeks, the players will be getting rolling here. He is James Vendenberg, former Iowa Hawkeye quarterback. Again, you see all of James's information there, part of RBC Wealth Management in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, Corridor Investment Group. The quarterback, James Vendenberg, is partnered with Bill Happel Jr., the former Iowa Hawkeye wide receiver. So, James, as always, thank you so very much, and look forward to catching up with you next week, my friend.
Thanks for having me, Dave.
My pleasure as always. For James Vendenberg and Craig and Stacy Schroeder, I'm Dave O'Hara with Hawkeye. We'll be back to close out the show with Hawkeye Insider David Eickholt in just a few moments.
When you're a farmer, there's a lot of things you can't control, but there is a way to give your soybeans an early advantage. Mershman Seeds soybean seed treatment featuring Turpidity ST. An independent analysis has proven faster and more even emergence every time. Just look at the Mershman difference. Give your crop the boost it needs for a uniform stand. For the best yields, grow with us. Mershman Seeds.
Hi, I'm Joel from Tice Automotive Family. We're living through some of the most interesting and challenging times many of us have ever seen. Knowing who you can rely on is more important than ever. Many of us turn to our families to get us through, and the same holds true here. From our fair, upfront pricing to exceptional service after the sale, we truly want to exceed your expectations. So give us a call or stop by and let us show you what it means to be part of the Tice Automotive family.
When you're a farmer, there's a lot of things you can't control, but there is a way to give your soybeans an early advantage. Mershman Seeds soybean seed treatment featuring Turpidity ST. An independent analysis has proven faster and more even emergence every time. Just look at the Mershman difference. Give your crop the boost it needs for a uniform stand. For the best yields, grow with us. Mershman Seeds.
Hi, I'm Joel from Tice Chevrolet. We've lived through some very interesting times the last few months. Ensuring everyone's safety is more important than ever. That is why we're participating in the Chevy Clean program. At your request, we will pick up your vehicle, service it, and return it after we've cleaned it using the current CDC guidelines. This is just another way to work towards exceeding your expectations. So give us a call and let us show you what it means to be part of the Tice Automotive family.
Welcome back to Hawkeye with me, Dave O'Hara. Thanks for staying tuned. For those of you just tuning in for the first time, again, as I mentioned, you can catch up on past episodes. Go to daveoharasports.com. I want to introduce you to this guy. Those of you in Eastern Iowa and Cedar Rapids area, or if you've seen the show online, you know him. He's Hawkeye Insider David Eickholt. David, after 8.5 months of doing Zoom interviews with you, great to be here in person with you. Thanks, man.
Yeah, always good to be here, Dave. I'm happy we can do it in person. It's just a totally different dynamic that I think everybody's going to enjoy, and as we continue to kind of creep back into normalcy.
That's the key phrase, normalcy, hopefully. That being said, before we get to talking about normalcy at Iowa and name, image, and likeness and kind of throwing normalcy out the window here as far as alcohol sales go at Kinnick Stadium, we're going to get into all that in just a moment. But I wanted to highlight this segment initially with last week's announcement of the Iowa Hawkeye Athletic Hall of Fame, highlighted by Ed Podolak, Fred Mims, and God rest his soul, Roy Marble, and then a wealth of other big names in Hawkeye history. And again, if you see David's information on the bottom of the screen, go there. We're full coverage and the full list of names. But David, we've got a lot to get to with the Hawkeyes in change at Kinnick Stadium with alcohol sales and then name, image, and likeness. And then, oh, by the way, we'll get to the on-field stuff upcoming with practices and Brody Brecht not being in the MLB draft and deciding to stay at Iowa as a baseball player and football player. But let's get to alcohol sales first at Kinnick Stadium, a change from last year.
You know, Dave, I do think that this was a long time coming. We talked to Gary Barta 2 years ago at Big Ten Media Days, and kind of off the record, he said, you know, it's going to happen, but it's just a matter of when. And they've always said, yeah, it's about the best enhancing fan experience, but I think we all know what a big driver of this is going to be, and that's going to be the money, especially after the way COVID-19 really shredded athletic budgets all across the nation. It is worth mentioning there are a couple different rules, though, Dave, or changes, I should say. 30% of the net alcohol sales will be going back to, research for, I believe, alcohol harm committee. That's through the University of Iowa. And another big change that was kind of a footnote in the whole thing was tailgating cannot begin in the official parking lots before 6 hours before the game. Usually it used to be 6 a.m. every game, but that's no longer the case. I think they tried to hide away, but it's Iowa. Look, people are going to find a way to tailgate either way, so I don't think it's going to be that big a deal.
You know, it's interesting, too. We're going to get into this as the weeks go on, but the move to ticketless sales are going to be going on. And then you take a look at what you talked about with changes going on with the schedule. The Iowa State game is now going to be a 3:30 Central Time kick instead of 2:30 on ABC because of the potential or expected coverage of the 20th anniversary of 9/11. And obviously that Hawkeye Cyclone game is on 9/11. So that being said, but now we've got to get to name, image, and likeness. And everybody's known about this all summer. The NCAA finally stepped up and said, even if your state doesn't approve it or vote it in, we're going to let you do it. And we're in the middle of July, and boy howdy, Jordan Bohannon, as you're smiling with me, has gotten after it. Some other players have throughout the country, but at Iowa specifically, no one bigger, better, and badder than Jordan Bohannon at this. But Spencer Petras has jumped on board. A lot going on, David.
Yeah, if there was one player I didn't expect to hop on the name, image, and likeness, it was Jordan Bohannon. Kidding, obviously, with all of his, just his advocacy for it. Yeah, with his, I think, J30, he's kind of trademarked, and he's been making T-shirts and other merchandise. Spencer Lee has been all over the board. I mean, you talk about the deals he has with local companies, with national companies.
But let's you and I talk about Brody Brecht this week.
Yeah, so about an hour before the MLB draft, Hawkeye Insider received an intel that he was expecting not to get drafted. His asking price was too high. I think everybody knows what his potential is if he did stick with baseball. You're talking about a 6'4" guy with great leverage, great velocity, throws 98 mile-an-hour fastball, with, by the way, that being his second sport. But I talk about an Iowa kid. He's been growing up wanting to play in Kinnick Stadium, wanting to play for Rick Heller, and it was going to take, I think, life-changing, generational, I'll say low to mid seven-figure money to really draw him away from that.
Yeah, it's so impressive, and what a talent he is on the football field, and he'll be helping that wide receiver core and in the wide receiver room this fall as well for the Hawkeyes. So we have so much more to get to. I can't wait for next week. I say that every show. You'll get used to it for the new viewers. Can't wait till next week. Thanks to David Eickholt. David, I got to do it again in person. Thank you so much. It's great to shake your hand and get you in person in studio.
Yeah, it's great, Dave. I'm looking forward to this.
Thank you so much. We still do some Zoom casts, as you saw previously with James Vendenberg, the segment ahead of time, but trying to do as much in person as we can now with the interviews. So thanks for tuning in for this first week back with new and current shows of Hawkeye with me, Dave O'Hara. Again, to the new stations on board Sioux City. City, Des Moines, and Ottumwa, thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the program. Also to those of you in Cedar Rapids, Eastern Iowa, thanks for coming back. So again, for Hawkeyed with me, Dave O'Hara, and David Eickholt, James Vendenberg, Craig and Stacy Schroeder, and to you, the viewers, and our advertisers and sponsors, please stay tuned for just a second after the show for the rolling credits to give our advertisers the respect and consideration they deserve for helping out this program as they always do. So again, for the aforementioned guests and Hawkeyed with me, Dave O'Hara, that's all from me. Thanks to all of you.